from the outside.
Greetings. I am Buzz Lightyear. I come in peace.
All right. Today's theme is Toy Story, one of my favorite movies. Okay. Our title today is 2-1 If-Then Statements, and our notes are going to go in our notes page like so. You're going to cut your paper in half, and then the bottom section you'll cut in half again, so you have 2 columns there, and then you'll have your glue in. The first thing we're going to do today is we're going to be copying a table from a PowerPoint. So let me go ahead and let's find that slide. Here we go. There it is. Okay. The first thing I want to recommend is that you not pause the video because I'm going to be helping you edit out some of the words here to kind of make your definitions a little bit more precise. Notice that there's 3 columns titled Words, Symbols, and Model. And I would dedicate 1 line, 2 lines, 2 lines, and 2 lines for your rows here. The first vocabulary word we're going to be looking at is an if-then statement. And an if-then statement is of the form if P then Q. The symbols for that are P arrow Q. The arrow means if then, or P implies Q. Now here's what it says in the table. The hypothesis of a conditional statement is the phrase immediately following the word if. I would write the hypothesis follows the word if. For the conclusion, I'd write the conclusion follows the word then. The hypothesis is represented by the letter P, and the conclusion, the letter Q. And this picture over here is kind of a model of what an if-then statement is. If the P occurs, then Q will be the result. If P, then Q. Now, the first thing that I think is missing in this table is that an if-then statement is a conditional statement. So can you add in conditional statement right there? The next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding in the margin to hypothesis and conclusion to make it a little bit more precise. So I'm going to move our conditional statement out of the way, and let me make this a little bit smaller. All right, the first thing I want to show you is kind of a different way to think about the conclusion and the hypothesis without thinking them as so much connected to the word if and the word then. Occasionally in an if-then statement, they don't write if and then. So let's think about this in a more deep sense, okay? When they say hypothesis, I want you to think of it as being like the environment, the setup, the action. It's something that sparks something. It creates a consequence, and the consequence is the conclusion. It's what happens as a result. Something happens, and this is the result. Okay, think about that. Keeping that in mind, and knowing that you know the definition of a hypothesis and a conclusion, could you identify them given a conditional statement? Okay, I'm going to give you 2 examples right now. And a heads up, the first one's pretty obvious, the second one a little tricky. All right, example 1. If it is raining when I wake up. If it's raining when I wake up, then my mom makes me take an umbrella. Umbrella. All right, I'm going to see if I can get up. There we go. Perfect. So, if it is raining when I wake up, then my mom makes me take an umbrella. Now, the most simplest part of the definition of a hypothesis and conclusion is simply, can you find the if and the then? They said what follows the if is the P, the hypothesis. And what follows the conclusion is, or what follows the then is the conclusion. If it's raining is the hypothesis, and my mom makes me take an umbrella is the conclusion. That's it. Find the if, find the then, and you'll be able to pull out the hypothesis and conclusion very simply. I said I was going to trick you, and this is how I'm going to trick you. Here we go. Example 2. Let's see if you can see how this one's tricky. A 5-sided figure is a pentagon. Go ahead and read it. A five-sided figure is a pentagon. Are you seeing a problem here? I am too. Where is the if? Where is the then? Now there are a couple options here. Number one, keep in mind that you know the hypothesis is the environment, the setup, some sort of an action, and that you know the conclusion is what happens as a result. Now you're going to have to keep both of those things in mind, and I know you're an expert at the English language, so another way to do this is to kind of take that knowledge and your use of English and to rewrite this using if and then. So here we go. If a figure has five sides, are you with me here? Then, what do you think I'm going to write? It is a pentagon. All right, let's see if that makes sense. If a figure has five sides, then it is a pentagon. I see my if, I see my then, there's my hypothesis, there's my conclusion. In this case, we did have to rewrite it, but we were still able to find the hypothesis and conclusion. So keep in mind, you may need to rewrite some of your statements so that you can find the hypothesis and conclusion.